For quite some time now, the US and Cuba have had let's call it a tumultuous relationship. Back in 2015, however, the United States government officially reopened their embassy in Havana and sent some of their finest agents and officials to work there. Even though there was still a lot of tension between the two nations, everything appeared to be hunky-dory over at the embassy. That is, until late 2016, when an American CIA operative started hearing a strange, buzzing noise in his apartment. The buzzing caused an uncomfortable feeling of pressure in his head. At first he figured it was cicadas or crickets outside his window, but that turned out not to be the case. The mysterious, insect-like buzzing wouldn't let up, and the agent began suffering from dizziness and chronic headaches. Things got so bad that he sought medical attention. A report was sent to Washington. Since this was just a one-off case, nobody paid it much attention. No investigation was launched into the matter, and business continued as usual. In February 2017 though, 2 more agents reported hearing the same strange buzzing. This time, it caused more serious symptoms. They not only suffered from headaches and dizziness, but also motor issues and tinnitus. Whatever this strange sound was, it only seemed to be affecting US personnel stationed at the Havana embassy, and it was seriously doing a number on their brains. The symptoms were the same as in patients with damaged inner ears. When confronted by the head of the US embassy, the Cuban government denied any wrongdoing. The Americans launched an investigation into both the Cubans and the Russians, but didn't find any evidence to link them to the buzzing sound. By March, even more American personnel came forward with similar symptoms. Motor issues, extreme migraines, vertigo and tinnitus. Some of these personnel didn't even report hearing the buzzing sound at all. They'd just fallen sick out of the blue. They called it Havana Syndrome. As the months went by, more and more Americans stationed in the Cuban capital began to fall prey to it. By September of that same year, 16 CIA agents alone had been affected, along with many other civil servants. A doctor was sent to treat them. He too fell sick. Those affected by Havana Syndrome soon began developing other symptoms: insomnia, nausea, fainting, vision loss, frequent nosebleeds, and, most worryingly, signs of brain damage. They were struggling with severe memory loss and became unable to concentrate on anything. These cognitive issues were making it difficult for them to complete even simple tasks, and lasted for months after being exposed to the mysterious buzzing sound. Due to the secrecy of the CIA's investigation, we don't know exactly how many staff members were affected by the syndrome, but we do know that at least 40 personnel fell sick. Their brains were examined using advanced imaging techniques. The results of these tests were then compared with the control group. In July of this year, the report was published. The 40 staff members affected by Havana Syndrome had significantly less brain matter than the control group. They also had problems with functional connectivity in their brains. It then came to light that Canadian officials in Havana were being affected too, 14 of them in total. Both the US and Canadian governments were convinced that some sort of radio or electromagnetic weapon was being used to attack their workers, but couldn't pinpoint exactly who was responsible or what sort of device was being used. Both governments withdrew all their non-essential personnel from Havana. The 14 affected Canadians sued their government for $28 million for failing to address the Havana Syndrome problem. Their lawsuit is still ongoing. As of right now, we still don't know who or what was responsible for the buzzing. Some people think that the syndrome was the result of some environmental issue, and that it really was just the constant sound of crickets or cicadas that affected the workers' brains. And that doesn't explain why only US and Canadian government officials were affected though. The whole thing's very suspicious, and theories range from Cuban, Russian or Chinese sabotage, to the whole thing simply being an unidentified virus that spread around the embassies. Since it's such a recent phenomenon, we might actually uncover the truth on this one. If the American and Canadian governments don't keep the whole thing secret, that is. It seems they're doing their utmost to keep their investigations under wraps. Understandable, I suppose. For anyone wondering what this mysterious buzzing sounded like, I'm about to play a short recording taken by one of the US agents. Don't worry, the clip isn't long enough to fry your brain. Probably. If you don't want to hear it, pause the video now and use the timestamp in the description to skip to the next entry. For the curious amongst you though, here it is. I'm not sure how well known this one is, but it's one that's always tickled my fancy. The bath game, sometimes known as Daruma-san, is a game that dates back a long way. The game itself carries with it huge risk, but also the potential for huge reward. According to legend, by conducting a simple ritual, you can summon an entity known as Daruma-san, who will play a game of cat and mouse with you. The reward for winning is that you'll be blessed with amazing fortune. This one's not for the light-hearted amongst you though, as a lot of bad things can happen to you if you decide to play the game, including death. Here are the rules. To play, you'll need a bathroom with a bathtub. Only one person can play this game at a time, but don't worry, you won't really be playing alone. Step 1. Wait until nighttime, just before bed. Step 2. Fill up your bath with water and turn off all the lights. Step 3. Take off your clothes and get into the bath. Make sure your body is facing the faucet. Step 4. Close your eyes and begin to wash your hair. Step 5. As you wash your hair, repeat the phrase, Daruma-san fell down. Daruma-san fell down. Make sure to keep repeating this the whole time you wash. Under no circumstances should you open your eyes. Step 6. If everything's gone according to plan, your head will be filled with the mental image of a woman standing in the bathtub. In this mental image, she'll slip and fall face first onto the tap, gouging out her right eye. She'll die in the process. Step 7. If, after this mental image, you feel a presence in the water behind you, do not turn around or open your eyes. Instead, ask aloud, why did you fall? Step 8. There'll be no answer to your question. Just let it linger in the air for a moment. Then, with your eyes still firmly shut, step out of the bath and dry yourself off. And this can be dangerous, so be careful not to slip as you get out. Step 9. You can now open your eyes. Head to your bedroom. It's time for bed. Do not turn on the bathroom lights. Do not drain the bath water until morning. Do not re-enter the bathroom after you leave, and make sure to close the door behind you. Step 10. Go to sleep. The ritual is now complete. As soon as you wake up in the morning, the game will begin. The ghostly figure of Daruma-san will follow you all day. You can tell who she is by her stained white clothes, her long black hair, and the fact that she's missing her right eye. Her left one is open and bloodshot. Throughout the day, you'll occasionally feel her presence creeping up behind you. When you do, quickly look over your right shoulder. When you turn to look, you probably won't see her. As the day goes on though, she'll get closer and closer. Do not let her touch you. If you sense that she's getting too close, shout, "Tomare," meaning stop. Shout this while swinging your arm in a chopping motion. Then, run. You've just stalled her and bought yourself some time. Put as much distance between you and her as possible. Use this Tomare command sparingly though. It'll become less effective with every use, so only say it when you really feel the need to. The game will only end when you manage to catch a glimpse of Daruma over your right shoulder. When you finally do see her, immediately shout, "Kita," meaning I cut you loose. Say this while swinging your arm like before. If you manage to do that before midnight, congratulations, you've won the bath game, and good fortune should be yours, for a time at least. Should you fail to spot her by midnight and cut her loose though, then I'm afraid you've lost the bath game. Daruma will never stop following you. You can run as much as you like, but she'll always be close behind, and eventually you'll need to sleep, giving her the opportunity to catch you, either in person or in your dreams. When she catches you, well, that's the end. Don't try to play this game more than once. On the second playthrough, she'll start at the same distance you caught sight of her last time, and you won't have enough time in the morning to get away. This was back in the 80s. I lived in Australia and was driving from Brisbane to Sydney. I had a Jimi Hendrix bobblehead on the dashboard of my truck. We'd recently had a Secret Santa at the new company I was working at, and a co-worker bought it for me as a gift. Why she'd picked that out for me was anyone's guess. I guess I was a newbie, and she didn't really know me that well, so maybe she thought it might be a funny present. I don't know. I wasn't actually a Hendrix fan. I was more into disco music myself, but obviously I didn't tell her that. She was cute though, and on the off chance that she might one day get inside my vehicle, I decided to put the bobblehead on my dashboard. On that drive to Sydney, I noticed a hitchhiker on the side of the road. Well, this was the 80s, when this sort of thing was more acceptable and viewed as less of a big deal, so I decided to help the guy out and give him a ride. He looked normal enough. The guy hops in and thanks me, says that he's heading in the same direction. As we made our way towards Sydney, the guy points out to the Hendrix bobblehead on my dash. Hey man, you're a fan of Jimi Hendrix, huh? He's the greatest guitarist of all time, am I right? The dude starts getting seriously passionate about Jimi Hendrix, and starts going off about him so much that I can't get a word in edgeways. He seemed like such a big fan of Jimi Hendrix, that when he asked me, "So you're really into his music too, huh?" I just replied with, "Yeah, I'm a big fan." Didn't want to ruin the guy's buzz, you know? Wow, that's awesome, man. Which songs? Oh, you know, all of them, man. Couldn't pick one in particular. In all honesty, I couldn't actually think of a single song title. The hitchhiker gives me a big smile. "Right on," he says. He spent the rest of the journey smiling and looking out of the window, as if he was contemplating something. We start to get close to Sydney. That's when he says that we're near where he needs to be dropped off. He points me down some side road that took us off the beaten track. I pull up where he tells me. The place looks deserted. No buildings around, no people. Real Nowheresville. Why did he want to be dropped off here of all places? He hopped out of my vehicle. "Thanks for the ride, man," he says to me. "Yeah, don't mention it. It was good to have some company." "Hey, I'm gonna be honest with you," he said. He dipped his hand into his waistband and pulled out a pistol. "I was gonna end you, man. Right here, right now. Just take your money and run, you know. But I can't do that to a Hendrix fan, man. Not to a Hendrix fan." I had no idea if this was some kind of sick joke or what, but his weapon looked real enough to me. I knew I had to say something, but all I could muster was, thanks for not going through with it, I guess." With that, he strolled off to who knows where. Didn't wait around to see. Just floored it out of there. Not too long after that, the guy's face showed up in a newspaper I was reading. He was facing charges for slaying a middle-aged man that had picked him up while he was hitchhiking. Could have easily been me, had my co-worker not picked me as Secret Santa, and not bought me that stupid bobblehead. This isn't my story, but my friend's. His name is Morita, and though he's not the purest of people, I don't think he deserved what happened to him. Still, I won't sugarcoat things, and I'll let you guys judge for yourselves. This all happened 5 years ago. Morita and I both lived in Osaka, Kansai. We met at university, though at the time of this story, Morita had already been working at an accounting firm for the past 2 years. He'd done well for himself. I was stuck making okonomiyaki for tourists. Not an awful job per se, but I always thought I'd be working for a big firm like him. I envied him a little. Anyway, Morita had to go away for a week to audit some company in Hiroshima, a good 6-hour drive away from Osaka. As such, his company paid for him to stay in a hotel there for a week. When he came back, we met up for dinner. "Hey man," he told me, "I have a crazy story to share with you." "Oh yeah?" I said, urging him to spill the beans. "Yeah, I met a girl down in Hiroshima on my first night. Had myself a little holiday romance, if you know what I mean. Yumi, her name was." He proceeded to show me pictures of this Yumi woman on his phone. She's an accountant too at the company I was auditing. "Dude," I replied, "you already have a girlfriend." "I know, it's a pretty bad thing to do, but it's okay. My girlfriend will never find out." He could tell from my reaction that I was both surprised and disappointed in his behavior. "Man, relax. This was only a 1-week fling. I made sure Yumi knew this was nothing serious, and I won't do anything like this again, believe me." In the end, I promised to keep his secret. A few weeks passed, and I'd arranged to meet up with Morita again for dinner in town. I arrived a little early. When Morita finally arrived, I was shocked by his appearance. He looked pale and disheveled. I knew instantly that something was the matter. "Hey, everything okay, bud?" I asked him. "You'll never believe what's happened," he said, looking like he was about to be sick. He was right. After he told me, I genuinely couldn't believe my ears. It turns out that that very day, a new employee had started working at his company. It was the same girl he'd had a fling with in Hiroshima, the Yumi woman. She'd moved all the way to Osaka, transferred her job to his company, and completely uprooted her whole life just so she could be with him. She'd become obsessed. Totally obsessed. "Yumi, what on earth are you doing here?" he asked her. "I came to be with you, silly. I know you said you weren't looking for anything serious, but I know in your heart you didn't mean that. When you stopped replying to my messages, I knew I had to prove to you how serious I was about this relationship." "Relationship?" Morita gasped. "Yumi, I only saw you for a week. We only had a holiday romance. No big deal, you know." He did his best to try and convince her that he didn't have any true feelings for her, but she didn't seem to get the message. Yumi would follow Morita around the office, constantly talking to him and trying to get close to him. When it was time to go home, Morita would quickly run out of the office and out of her view. He knew he couldn't let her find out where he lived. If she'd followed him all the way to where he worked, she'd most certainly turn up at his apartment. She was, after all, a total yandere. Who knows what she might do? After days of trying to get her to leave him alone, he finally confessed to her. "Yumi, I'm sorry, but I already have a girlfriend." "Oh, I see." Her eyes became extremely wide and flared with a sort of fiery intensity. The rest of her face remained neutral. "I understand." With that, she turned her back to him and scurried away into her cubicle. Didn't speak to him for the rest of the day. Well, his actions up until now had been stone cold, but I guess there wasn't really any other way to deal with the situation. At least he'd come clean. Maybe this crazy girl would finally go back home now. That was for the best, both for Morita and for her. When Morita arrived at work the next morning, Yumi was nowhere to be seen. Excellent, she'd gotten the message. Morita approached his desk and noticed something unusual. There was a chocolate cake next to his computer. Beside it was a post-it note. "Keep up the good work, Morita." Signed, Mr. Ishiguro. Ishiguro was the head of the department. Wow, Morita felt pretty good about himself. He'd obviously impressed his boss and was seen as a major asset to the company. Strange, though, he thought. There was a single slice missing from the cake. Had his boss forgotten to eat breakfast and taken a slice of the cake? Who knew? Whatever the case, he was ecstatic. After lunch, Morita planned on eating a slice of the cake, but the tempura he had filled him up more than he expected. He decided to save the cake for after dinner instead. Before leaving work that day, he happened to bump into his boss. With a bow, he thanked Mr. Ishiguro for the cake. Cake? What on earth are you talking about, Morita? I've never bought cake for an employee in my life. If I was going to start now, I certainly wouldn't give you the first one. What? But if the cake wasn't from Ishiguro, then... Yeah, you already guessed it, right? Morita guessed it too. Yumi had come into the office earlier than anyone else that morning and planted the cake on Morita's desk. She had left the forged note from his boss. She had cut out a piece of the cake for herself to enjoy at home. Here's the crazy part. The icing in the cake had been poisoned. Morita figured that she had probably tampered with the cake in some way, so he disposed of it quickly after he figured it out, but he didn't suspect that she'd have done something so extreme. He only found out what she had actually done with the cake after she didn't turn up to work for several days. People were sent to her apartment to check on her. They found Yumi lifeless on her sofa. She had eaten her piece of the cake, and the icing had done its job. She had left a love note for Morita. It was several pages long. It closed with the lines, "So, if I can't have you in this life, I'll have you in the next. See you there soon, my love. Forever yours, Yumi." If he had still been hungry after lunch that day, he really would have been hers forever. Our actions have consequences, sometimes bigger consequences than we can foresee. Obviously, the story got relayed to Morita's girlfriend, and she dumped him then and there. I hope he'll think twice before doing something so rotten and selfish again. For the past 15 years, I've been delivering groceries in Nebraska. A lot of our customers have been using us for a long time, though this story has to do with one household in particular. For the sake of privacy, we'll call them the Wilson family. For almost the entire time I've worked this job, the Wilson family have been using our delivery service. Once, or sometimes twice a week, I'll drop by their place to deliver their groceries. The mama of the house is called Marie. Her husband was called Tex. I ain't sure if that was his real name or not, but that's what he went by, and the guy was a real modern-day cowboy. Wore the whole get-up, and always addressed me as cowboy. "Morning, cowboy," he'd say as he saw me coming up his driveway. "Catch you later, cowboy," he'd say as I bid him farewell. He always said this while bringing two of his fingers to his head, like a real cowboy would if he was lifting his hat or something. I always returned the gesture. We bonded over the years, and would sometimes get lost in conversation with each other. Real nice guy, Tex was. Didn't have the healthiest of diets, though. I could tell by his shopping cart. Seemed like the guy was living off bacon, sausage, and steak. Sadly, the old man's diet caught up with him in the end, and Tex kicked the bucket 5 years after I started delivering to him. I shed a few tears for the guy the evening I heard the news, and had a drink to his memory. Marie kept on ordering from us after that. For 9 or so years, I kept dropping by her place as usual, this time with a smaller haul of groceries than when Tex was still with us. A lot can change over 9 years, let me tell you. I got to watch as their 2 young sons grew up into teenagers, and as their house changed with the times, as Marie sold Tex's beloved motor car, and as her life went on, and she got married to another guy called Phil. Their haul increased after that, as did the number of deliveries I had to make to their house every week. Recently, though, something strange happened when I made one of those deliveries. I came by their house as usual, only to see Tex's old car outside their home, looking just how it had years before, same paint job and everything. Marie must have tracked down the buyer and bought the car back off him. Maybe she was feeling sentimental and wanted to hold on to that piece of Tex after spending so many years without him. Who knows? I knocked on the door, and Marie answered. Strange, I thought. Her face seemed distinctly less wrinkled than I remembered. Mrs. Wilson, I said, you're positively glowing. She blushed a little and thanked me, then invited me inside to drop the groceries in the kitchen. Got old Tex's car back, I see, I said to her. She let out a little laugh. Did he tell you he sold it then? That ugly thing will be with us until he kicks the bucket. I was a tad confused by her reply, but brushed it off and put it down to the old woman's brain going a little gaga with years. Something else seemed a little weird though. The decor of the house. It was like it had been years ago. Old photos were strung up on the wall of the kids when they were much younger. All of the furniture was like the stuff they used to have in the past. My mind started darting around. Had she dumped Phil? Gone a little doolally or something? Was she trying to relive the old days when she was with Tex? I daren't ask. Didn't want to cause any drama. I walked into the kitchen to put down the groceries. Sitting at the table, eating their breakfast, were Marie's 2 sons. But that's the thing. They weren't teenagers. They were just kids again, like how they looked in all the old photos on the wall. Impossible, I thought. They must just be her nephews or something. She was just babysitting some relative's kids. But they looked so identical. They could have been clones of her children from the past. I put down the groceries and immediately made my way to the front door, not stopping to chat with Marie. Something felt off about the house. I didn't like it. I needed some air. Leaving so quickly? She said as I speed walked to the front door. Yes, I managed to spurt out. Sorry, I'm in a rush today. Have a good one, Mrs. Wilson. I reached the front door, which was still open, but something made me stop. I can't describe the feeling, but I knew I had to turn and look over my right shoulder, past it into the living room behind me. I trusted my instinct and turned my head. Sat there in an old, familiar armchair was an old, familiar man. Catch you next time, cowboy, he said to me, raising 2 fingers to his head. A strange feeling came over me. Not fear. Warmth. I'd recognize that face anywhere. I gave Tex a smile and raised my 2 fingers out of respect. I then walked out the front door and closed it behind me. I looked out onto their driveway. Tex's old car was nowhere to be seen. Nothing seemed out of place or old-fashioned. Everything was as it should be. Back to normal. Back like it was in my time. I continued on with the rest of my deliveries for the day. I've made many deliveries to Marie since then, and nothing else weird has ever happened to me at that house. I decided not to tell her about the incident, fearing that she'd think I was making fun of her or insulting Tex's memory in some way. I've told my wife and friends about it. They all called me crazy, so I'm sharing my story here. Does anyone have any ideas about what this could have been? I've been racking my head for months now and still can't think of a rational explanation. Did I experience a time warp? A brain spasm? Some sort of glitch in the Matrix? I have no idea, but I was completely lucid. Didn't have anything weird in my system, and saw and heard everything plain as day. I don't know what to make of all of this, but I will say, Tex, it was good to see you again, cowboy. It was summer in small-town New Mexico. I was about 15 years old at the time, and since school was out, I was doing a few odd jobs around town to earn some money. Mowing lawns, walking dogs, anything that could make me a few bucks, you know. There was this one guy who lived in my town.